Good morning, everyone. Um, Welcome to today's session on AI in cybersecurity. Um, Today's session on AI in cybersecurity, and then our subtopic is actually the applications of AI. That's AI in action. Um, we've tried to wait for people to join, but it appears I think there's a little bit of glitch with the link. I sincerely apologize for that on behalf of the team. But that's been rectified. We have we're trying to forward the new links to your individual mails. And so yeah, so we'll be starting right away. Yeah, so we're starting right away. Getting some number people joining. So we'll be starting right away. So yeah, welcome to session 2 of our course, AI defense in cybersecurity. Today, we'll be delving into the um, very fascinating and increasingly critical topic of applications of AI in cybersecurity, exploring how artificial intelligence is being harnessed, to build more robust and also very intelligent defense systems or mechanisms. And all these are against, definitely cyber threats. My name is Bankole Adekola, as usual. And some people call me Banky, which is fine by me. And I'm excited to guide you through this session today. I want to start today's session not with an agenda, but with a story. So let's imagine you are a security analyst. Just a minute, please. I'm getting some noisy. So sorry, I'm back. Um, had to quickly sort out some disturbing sounds from the environment. Apologies. I'm back. So yeah, I said I wanted to start this session with a story, and I was giving us a story of imagine you are a security analyst, in a major company. You know what a security analyst does, right? Cyber security analyst. And let's say it's a normal Monday or Tuesday morning. You've had your coffee or your tea, or maybe your pap, depending on what you take in the morning, and then you're logged in, and your dashboard is seeing, regular greens. Greens means everything looks fine. But what you really don't know is that for the past 6 months, a small, virtually undetectable piece of malicious code has actually been sitting in your network, quietly exfiltrating data and also mapping out your entire network or your system. And it's beating its time, it's just watching, taking its time. You know, it wasn't a flashy or dramatic attack, and there was no pop up at all, no alarms, nothing. The attackers were very smart, and they didn't break down any door. They just simply slipped in through a very trusted vendor, a company that you had probably maybe vetted, through your normal security process and even approved. These attackers actually hid their activity in plain sight, blending it in millions of legitimate network traffic. This is actually not a fictional story. It's actually um, what happened with the famous SolarWinds attack in 2020. A very highly sophisticated attack. And it was a nation state level attack. And it was what happened was that it was hiding behind the supply chain, moving very slowly and very deliberate across the network. When it was finally discovered, the security team wasn't actually dealing with just a single threat. They were faced with months of backlog data. And, that's a serious forensic malware, nightmare. For them to drill through those backlog of data. You know. So this story actually highlights the fundamental truths about our modern cybersecurity. The bad guys aren't just getting better; they're actually getting very, very smart, very, very smart, and they're using sophisticated techniques. They are moving at machine speed because they have AI, so they are moving at machine speed. That brings us to the core problem which we are facing today. The battlefield has changed. You know, in the past, a security professional's job was like a guard at the castle gate, watching to see which intruder was coming in. You know, but today it's more like a lifeguard, somewhere in a very crowded beach, several distractions, several events happening here and there, multiple. Think about the scale. A single enterprise network can generate billions of events every day, even login attempts, file access, every network packet that is going through, every event. All these events are all mountains of data, and they're like, trying to find a grain of sand on the beach, which is sometimes virtually impossible when we're doing that as a network analyst. So this volume is actually overwhelming. And actually, the velocity is also very frightening. You need to see the number of data that all these um, networking devices are collecting every day. I was watching um, a Cisco boss, or giving an interview, and he mentioned the level at which billions of data that they analyze on their Cisco new gen firewalls. That's to show that our traditional methods can't actually catch up. Which these traditional methods actually basically mostly rely on all these our static signatures, rule-based systems, manual analysis. And we can't keep up. Trust me, we really can't keep up. So we're literally fighting a modern battle, or let's say a digital war, and we're using some analog tools, which cannot work. That is exactly where artificial intelligence now steps in. AI is not some futuristic or let's say some magical solution. It's actually a very powerful tool that is fundamentally changing the way we approach cybersecurity. I think that's enough for the intro for a brief story of my story. I think this is my introduction. Most of you know me. Um, most of you know me. Um, yeah, most of you know me. My name is Bankole. I'm an ethical hacker, a safe security professional, cybersecurity engineer. One of the easiest way for you to catch up with me is on LinkedIn. I always respond as soon as I can. So that's my LinkedIn, Bankole Adekola. Just search, you see almost very similar picture, but I think I was smiling there. So yeah, find me on LinkedIn, Bankole Adekola. Very easy. So let's continue with a session overview for today. Before we jump in, let's quickly review what we'll cover in the next few hours. We'll start with a brief recap of what AI in cybersecurity actually means, just to ensure that we are all on the same page. Then I also set the stage by discussing, I also set the stage by discussing the current cyber threat landscape and precisely why AI has become a very crucial component in our modern defense strategy. The bulk of our session will be on, okay, we'll also discuss some key capabilities of AI. We'll talk about natural language processing, reasoning, machine learning, perception, of machines. And then we'll also talk about the key application, which is like the bulk of today's session, which is where, yeah, we're dedicating most of our time today. We'll be exploring key applications of AI in cybersecurity. Look at specific areas like threat detection, vulnerability management, incident response, and many more. Following that, we'll also address some important challenges and considerations that come with integrating AI into security. Then we'll also take a few looks at some few real world scenarios just to explain this concept better for us today. Um, the objectives, by the end of this session, my goal is for you to walk away with a very clear understanding of the AI revolution happening in cybersecurity right now. You will see that AI isn't just a buzzword, it is an essential partner in our uh, defense strategy. It's a very essential partner in our defense strategy. Um, it's also a tool. It's the tool that will also allow us to finally turn the tables and gain a very decisive advantage in the digital battlefield. Um, so let me do a quick recap of what we learned in our previous session. That's session one. Um, when we talk about AI or artificial intelligence in the broader sense, we are referring to systems. Yeah, we defined AI. That's what I'm trying to explain again to you. We defined AI as systems that are designed to perform tasks that typically will require some human intelligence. And this actually includes things like learning, problem solving, decision making, even understanding languages. There's one part of AI that you also hear very often, machine learning, which is a very critical subset of AI. And it's what actually enables these systems to learn from data without being explicitly programmed for every scenario. We also learned that cybersecurity is built on three key major principles, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And we also learned that cybersecurity spans through some major domains like networking, endpoints, application security, and also cloud security. However, with all this power that AI comes with, it also enables, I mean, it also empowers the criminals also. And we have seen things like deepfakes, AI generated phishing mails bypassing spam filters, and also automated hacking exploiting tools, which hack faster than even us as human beings. Um, Onto the cyber threat landscape and also why AI is crucial. Why is AI crucial? Now let's consider why AI has actually become not just beneficial but also absolutely crucial in cybersecurity today. The cyber threat landscape is evolving at an unprecedented pace. It's extremely fast, and we're increasing. We are seeing increasing sophistications. The level of attacks that are coming out these days are extremely sophisticated, and we're seeing them in large numbers. Threats are more advanced. The change form, to evade detection. I talked about our polymorphic malwares last week, and they they often operate in stealth. That's their job. Like a fileless malware, or APTs, mostly what we refer to as advanced persistent threats. We see them as advanced persistent threats where they are persistent. They must get their job done, and that is where it's a very dicey game for us as cybersecurity professionals. Also compounding this is the sheer volume and velocity of data that we have. Billions of data points, logs, and security alerts are generated every single day across all the networks and systems. And it is very, very impossible for humans to manually go through all these informations effectively. Think about the SolarWinds attack back in 2020. This was a highly sophisticated supply chain attack that went undetected for months. And it compromised thousands of organizations. When I say thousands, I mean thousands of organizations. And the sheer volume of legitimate network traffic made it incredibly difficult for our human eyes to actually spot those subtle malicious communications. And that's exactly the kind of needle in a haystack problem that we are facing, that AI is designed actually to resolve or to solve. There's also one very serious thing here for us in the AI field or in the cyber threat landscape is that there's a persistent skill gap. We have a shortage of skilled cybersecurity professionals. We don't have enough skilled professionals to meet the demands. We don't have it. There's a lot of demand, and so AI has to come up. You find out that even a lot of companies are actually falling back to employ a lot of humans because trust me, as much as you have this AI in place, you still need the skills to cover up that gap. Sometimes it's very difficult for organizations to um, keep up with the skill gap. Cost also is also a factor for them, probably. You know, Perhaps one of the most concerning threat landscape is adversaries are also learning as fast as we are also um, protecting. So these adversaries are also leveraging AI and machine learning to also automate their attacks, and that makes them extremely faster. They get more targets, and they're also easy to evade. Now they evade firewalls or whatever. So this means that we need to fight fire with fire. That's why we have AI. The attackers are using AI. We also, as the defenders, we need to use AI to protect ourselves from the attacks. Finally, the need for speed is paramount. The faster we can detect and respond to a breach, the less damage it can cause for us. And this is actually where AI truly shines, offering speed, skill, intelligence also necessary to keep the pace and effectively counter these rapidly evolving threats. Just imagine the story of the solar wind. Imagine there was an AI in place, it would have caught up with this breach way faster. And children have been able to be linked, and children have been able to linger in those networks for as long as it did. Now, artificial intelligence key capabilities is one also is somewhere that is a very fast. It's something that I want us to also explore. If we're going to delve into AI, exploring its core capability is very critical. It's very critical. AI is transforming industries and even our daily lives. So, having a grasp of this and its potential impact is very important for us. As you can see on this slide, we focus on four key capabilities that actually define the modern AI systems. We have machine learning, we have reasoning, we have natural language processing, which we call NLP, and we also have perception, which is I'll also explain. I promised to explain this last class that I was going to delve deeper today, and I'm here again with it. So machine learning. Let's start with machine learning. This is perhaps the most widely recognized and also the most and also impactful capability of AI today. Machine learning empowers systems to learn from data without being explicitly programmed, for every single task. So it learns on its own. Oh, this data, this is what it does, and it just takes its own initiative, just like a human would do on a normal day. You know, just as a human we do on a normal day, and you don't even need to write any rules for it the way we do with our conventional firewalls. We just feed it with vast amount of data, and it will identify the patterns, make necessary prediction, and then also adapt its behavior. That's one very nice thing about it. It has the ability to adapt in its behavior. You know, I now see how spam filters learn to identify unwanted mails. You know, you don't need to program it with every single spam keywords, the way we do. Instead, it learns from millions of emails, both legitimate emails, spam emails. It knows what a legitimate email looks like, what a spam email look like. It recognizes those characteristics that distinguishes the legitimate from the spam. Or let's consider how Netflix also suggests movies you might like. That is machine learning at work. Trust me. That is machine learning at work. It has learned your pattern of watching movies. It knows that, oh, this guy likes horror movies, or this guy likes comedy, oh, this lady likes, you know, series or this kind of movies, Nigerian movies. And so it suggests, sorry, it suggests accordingly based on your history or your preference or your viewing pattern. So that is, it has learned your pattern, it has learned from you. One of the key applications of this machine learning is one of the key applications of this machine learning is where you can see it forecast future trends, image recognition, and it can also be used for facial recognition and several other, and several other applications where learning is necessary or when learning thrive. And one other key capability is reasoning. This capability allows the AI system to draw logical conclusions, can also make inferences, and also solve complex problems based on the available information and also some predefined rules or probably the knowledge that's learned from the past. While machine learning is about pattern recognition, reasoning is more about logic and deduction. Logic and deduction. You need to draw conclusion. Historically, reasoning was a primary focus of our early AI research, leading to what we call expert systems. Based on the reasoning, we call them expert systems. And these systems are actually designed to mimic the decision-making ability of a human expert in a particular domain. You get the point? So, for instance, it could mimic the reasoning of a cybersecurity ethical hacker in an ethical hacking scenario. You get, you could reason that, oh, since I could get this port open, the next thing for me to do is use XYZ to exploit that port. You know, even in medical fields, financial fields too, we've seen where um, AI can predict that, oh, this guy is likely to default on loan if you give him loan based on your pattern and your history. To go through your history and to tell that financial organization that, oh, XYZ is known not to be giving loan based on XYZ of his, that's his reasoning like a professional loan analyst, or what do they call them? So things like that, and it makes it these things makes it significantly very, very powerful. You can also think about our voice assistant on your phone, like our Siri or Google Assistant. Those actually rely heavily on on um, on reasoning. So we also have natural language processing, which is NLP, sorry. And this is the branch of AI that actually enables computers to understand, interpret, and generate human language in a way that is both meaningful and also useful to us. You know, human language is also it's incredibly complex, and it's also full of a whole lot of ambiguity and also context. We also have a lot of context when we are talking. I could sound angry, but I mean, I could type something that's, I could type in a paragraph, and based on context, you might see it as you might see it as me being angry, you might see it as me being frustrated. Depends on the context, and now makes NLP a very significant um, challenge and powerful capability. Think about our voice assistants, like I was trying to mention. They rely on Siri and Google Assistant heavily, heavily. Mm, chatbots, rely on language processing. They rely on language processing. They analyze the sentiments in our social media posts, and they also use it to gauge public opinions, things like that. They use it to gain public opinion. NLP, which is language processing, is constantly evolving and is actually moving beyond our simple word recognition to understanding deeper meaning, um, the deeper meaning behind human intent or conversations. You see, even these days, when you ask um, ChatGPT some things, you see that it has that human communication capacity or capability in it. Next is perception. Perception. This capability of AI allows systems to interpret and also to understand information from the real world, much like we do through much as humans do through our senses. AI systems also achieve this through various sensors, processing the raw data into meaningful insights. Into meaningful insight. The most prominent area within perception is actually computer vision. Computer vision, and it enables machines to see and also interpret the visual information from images, videos, and the likes. This is this is what powerful self-driving cars, uses to recognize pedestrian traffic signs also. It's to see that, oh, this is red, pedestrian crossing, or slow down. All those traffic signs. It is what our self-driving car uses. It uses perception and then now uses reasoning to now deduce what to do next. It also allows even our security cameras to detect some unusual activities. You could carry a weapon, you could pass a place and there'll be no alert. You could be holding a weapon or a rifle, and if you go through some security cameras, it will automatically send a signal to a control room that somebody or an intruder is around with a weapon or something of that nature. And you know that's it. You can now come to action and then do one or two things, take a necessary incident response approach, and do the needful. You know, Another crucial aspect is also speech recognition. That's under perception, speech recognition, which is very distinct from the NLP, which you mentioned initially. That's NLP, which you mentioned initially. There's it again. Yeah, NLP, natural language processing. It's quite different from um, perception that we're talking of here. So in this case, um, um, speech recognition, which is different, from NLP, from language processing, in the sense that it focuses on converting spoken words into text. Meanwhile, our language processing processes text for meaning. This is very fundamental to voice assistants and our dictation softwares also. Robotics also heavily rely on perception to navigate environments, also to manipulate objects, and to interact with the physical world. Our normal robotics, even cars. Cars is I mentioned that earlier. It relies on perception. Perception of the physical world is what engages it to do the needful. In summary, all these four capabilities. Now, note the difference. Capabilities, we also talk about um, application. So now these are the capabilities, what is capable of doing. These four capabilities, which is machine learning, reasoning, natural language processing, and also perception. They are the pillars upon which modern AI is built. They often work in conjunction, mostly, most of the time they are together, creating a very sophisticated system that can think, that can actually learn first, think, communicate, and then also interact with our world in a very increasingly intelligent way. Understanding these core areas is very key. It's very key to appreciating the vast potential in the ongoing advancement in the field of AI. I was watching a car recently. It's a Chinese car actually, and what happens is that once it detects flood or it detects something unusual, it will actually drive out of the parking lot. Maybe it discovers that there's a flood in the parking lot. It will drive out of the parking lot and wait for you, or it will drive out and go and park itself on a higher to detect automatically which place in that area is higher, has higher grounds, and to automatically drive itself, start up, drive itself, go and park itself in a higher ground that will not be affected by flood. Same thing, maybe it notices some threats or something, it will drive out of the parking slot, go to the front of the entrance of where you are, pick you up, and drive you out to safety. That is the level in which AI is going to. And all this works with a combination of these four capabilities. Reasoning, to reason about it, get a perception, and then from his learning to take an action. That is it. That is exactly what AI is all about. Same thing in our cybersecurity field. You could see a threat to reason based on machine learning and based on his perception. Normal email looking all good and fine, but based on his reasoning and his perception, to detect that, oh no, this is not right, something is wrong, and it takes his judgment or maybe pushes an alert to you as the admin. So now over to key applications of AI. in cybersecurity. So with the previous context in mind, I think it's we are good to move to the core of our session, which is the key applications of AI in cybersecurity. The key applications of AI in cybersecurity. So AI fundamental power actually lies in its ability to analyze vast amount of data, identify integrate patterns, and also use those insights to make intelligent predictions or decisions. That is the major power of of AI, is that fact that it should be able to analyze those data, big data, get those predictions, and then make intelligent decisions. Very intelligent decisions, just as a human we do. We're going to explore this, how this theoretically applies, into very practical and impactful cybersecurity solutions across various domains. We're breaking down these applications of cybersecurity one by one, giving you a very clear picture of how AI is being used in the real world, to strengthen our digital defenses. The first application on our list is the threat detection and prevention. Perhaps it's the first and also maybe like the major application, and that's also because of its obvious impact. Threat detection and prevention. Almost everybody is trying to prevent one threat, it's either trying to detect and prevent one threat or the other. One threat or the other. This is actually where AI truly excels, because it helps us but to spot out all those malicious activity before they cause damage to our infrastructure. One primary way this AI does this is through what we call anomaly detection. Just as the name applies, something that is normal, abnormal. This is abnormal, something that is not normal. So anomaly detection. And how does AI help us here? You know, how does AI help us here? It first learns what is normal. It first learns what is a normal behavior, what a normal behavior should look like on the network, or probably within a particular system. Then it now establishes a baseline. It establishes a baseline of expected activity. Maybe things like login times, unusual data transfer volumes, or standard system calls. Then it constantly monitors for any form of deviation from this established baseline. For instance, if it sees a user logging in from an unusual location at 3 a.m. to trigger an alert. Or let's say, for instance, it's maybe a large organization where there's a server that particularly only communicates with only its internal DBs. And then all of a sudden, we are seeing that server connecting to one suspicious IP in another country. Automatically, AI will flag that as a major anomaly. Even if there is no known signature to say, oh, this, it automatically knows that this server has been communicating only with internal servers or databases for the last several whatever. How come all of a sudden today now somebody in Russia is trying to ping this server or is trying to send some packets? That's already an anomaly. It's out of normal. And so AI is going to flag it as an issue. So you see, that's even without setting up any particular thing. Well, what we do initially with our traditional firewalls is that we set up a rule and say, oh, any traffic going to XYZ, you flag it for us. Any traffic going to so place, you know, you bring it to our attention, stuff like that. But these days with AI, you don't even need to explicitly write out those rules at all. You don't. You just leave the AI, train it based on its own sense to know what to do. And it's very critical or very crucial for detecting things like insider threats. When somebody has your password, they wait when you have left office, this is when they will now go and log into your laptop. Don't worry, AI will catch it up because this is not when Bankole logs in, or this is not when Caroline logs in normally. Normally. So even 0 day attacks, which doesn't have any signature, or even some sophisticated malware that has, that might try to blend in. AI will not miss it. Although they do, but as compared to a human eye, AI will not miss it. And that is actually where AI flies. So another very significant contribution in threat and prevention application is the signatureless detection. Signatureless detection. Traditional antiviruses actually rely on known signatures of malware. Oh, they know that, oh, this is how this Trojan behaves. This is how this malware behaves. But what about the new unknown threats? How do you identify them? AI helps by identifying these new threats, that unknown new threats with new behaviors, based on their behavior or maybe their characteristics, rather than most times relying solely on a predefined signature. So it flags them based on their behavior, not based on signature at all. This is the backbone of what we call modern next gen antivirus. So you can see something like next gen system, there's something they write NGAV. So what they mean is next generation of antivirus. Mm, Next generation of antivirus. We also have EDRs that do that also. Yeah, but yeah, even EDRs, they're also very smart. I think there was recently we deployed one of those very smart EDRs, CrowdStrike, that actually does a good bulk load of detection for us in terms of AI. Um, One other aspect uh, where it enhances, I mean, where AI helps us is enhancing our intrusion detection and prevention system. You know, by continuously learning from the network traffic patterns, our AIs can actually improve the accuracy of threat alerts, helping us to significantly reduce the number of false positives, which can actually overwhelm security teams. A lot of false positives, oh, blah, blah, blah. Several false positives, and it could be overwhelming sometimes, and it makes us to now miss out on the right things. But AI helps us, it filters that out, it improves the accuracy of the overall threat detection and prevention system. One other place where AI flies is vulnerability management. And AI is transforming vulnerability management. It's moving us beyond just finding vulnerabilities to also intelligently prioritizing and managing them. Intelligently prioritizing and managing them. One of the biggest challenges is the sheer number of vulnerabilities discovered daily. But AI helps prioritization of these vulnerabilities. So instead of just looking for generic CVSS score, you know what I mean by CVSS? CVSS is common vulnerability score. So which we use in as security professionals, we use that to know, oh, this is severe, this is high, low, critical, medium, stuff like that. So it helps us to prioritize those vulnerabilities. AI can actually analyze multitude of factors. I mean, uh, can analyze using the multiple factors like threat intelligence views about um active exploits, the likelihood of a vulnerability being exploited in the wild, and most importantly, the criticality of the asset it relies on. Sometimes you could see a port one thing opened, and it might not mean anything. But if that port this is open on a very critical server where that particular port number is critical, it becomes an issue. A normal human might say, "Oh, no, don't worry," but considering the asset it resides on also determines the severity or the kind of attention or the priority that you should give to that vulnerability. So, you know, so you could use imagine a company with hundreds of unpatched vulnerability. Without AI, a security team or the security team might spend weeks trying to patch low risk issues. But with AI, they can actually quickly identify the specific vulnerability on their core customer DB or whatever. Even if the CIFV score is CVSS score isn't the highest, it's far more critical to patch immediately, because it's maybe being exploited in the wild. It could be low, but guys are beginning to use it, G boys or whatever, they're beginning to exploit it in the wild, you know. Then obviously the AI will tell you that prioritize this because guys are beginning to do a very spray attack, doing a spray attack on this vulnerability. AI also helps with predictive vulnerability assessment. It helps by predicting and analyzing past attack patterns. Yeah, and also emerging threat intelligence, and even the industry sector too. AI can predict which vulnerabilities are most likely to be targeted in the near future. So you have an oil company, you have XYZ kind of stuff in your oil company. You can predict that, oh, in the next future, guys are going to be targeting this your PLC or this your PCL or this your company or something like that and stuff like that. This proactive insight will allow organizations to patch those critical flaws. Become before they become a widespread attack on on uh, 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 on the organization. One other place where it shines is some maybe advanced scenario. It's also it can also assist us with automatic scanning and even remediation. It can intelligently orchestrate VAPT. No, not VAPT, just the vulnerability aspect of it. Um, Deciding when or where to scan based on the risk profile. And in certain cases, AI can even recommend the remediation steps to take. And even sometimes, if you give the agents the authorization, it can even assist you with remediation. Can help you download whatever patch, you know, upgrade whatever it is, and do the likes on your behalf. That is the advancement AI is going to. Next, you have incident response and forensics. Incident response and forensics is also one very um, useful part where AI is yeah AI is also being utilized in the cybersecurity field. Um, so AI actually speeds up automated incident response, incident triage. You know, so when hundreds or even thousands of alerts flood in, AI can actually quickly analyze these alerts, correlating data from various sources or log sources. Yeah, network logs, endpoints data, and then even user activity. It then prioritizes these incidents based on their potential severity and their impact. Based on their severity and their impact. And this also ensures that most critical threats are addressed first. Are addressed first. Think about an organization hit by a widespread phishing campaign. You know what a phishing campaign is? So instead of security teams to waste their time um, analyzing all the individual alerts, AI can quickly group these alerts, related alerts, identify the most impacted users, and then flag the highly sensitive data that are potentially at risk. And this allows the human responders to jump straight to the most urgent issues instead of wasting their time, sifting through some mountain of data. You know, it helps them. It helps them. One other thing, uh, uh, one other ways AI helps is to understand the root cause. It helps us to understand root cause by sifting through massive logs and data, endpoint network traffics, and then piece it together. And then you can also from there identify the origin of the attack, the progression through all your systems, jump from this server to these endpoints and the likes, you know. AI will help you to understand not what just happened, but how and even why. That's how I work with one very, very, I don't want to mention name, but one very advanced report tool. And when you click on a particular threat that is discovered, to break it down, to even tell you the motive behind the attack and how the attackers planned or are using that particular attack on your network or on your systems. One other place where AI shines is through threat hunting. Instead of you to wait for alerts, AI can help security teams, to actively search for hidden threats and also the indicators of compromise, what we call IOCs. That most of our traditional security systems might miss. Finally, in some highly mature environments, AI is moving towards automated containment and remediation. I think I mentioned this in the last slide. This means AI is actually, you know, actually moving very fast. AI-driven systems can, based on predefined playbooks and verified threats, trigger an immediate action. Sometimes like isolating the infected host, could also block malicious IP on its own from the firewall or even from the endpoints. It can block it from communicating or sending packets. It can also revoke. So, for instance, if Bankole's credential has been hijacked, maybe it sees that my password, it can actually automatically on its own. And maybe Bankole is an admin to several servers, it can on its own deactivate that password. Once it notices that, it can just deactivate that password, block where the password, the IP address where the password is coming from, all on its own, automated, all on its own, all on its own. Another application of AI in cybersecurity is what we call security operations and automation, SOA. SOA. And this is where AI actually helps security teams to work smarter and not just harder. To work smarter and not harder. So SOA platforms actually combine three key capabilities: security orchestration, security automation, and security response. And AI plays a crucial, or will I say, very critical role in enhancing all those three. First, AI facilitates orchestration. Modern security environments are very complex. Many disparate tools and systems, several tools and systems, firewall, endpoint protection, threat intelligence platform, identity management, and so on. AI helps to actually integrate all these tools, allowing them to share information and work seamlessly. And it acts as a central nervous system for your security operations. I was in an environment, or I got a gist of an environment where guy got employed, and when he started his job, he got inundated with a whole lot of things. A whole lot. He had firewall to look at, he had the EDR to look at, he had the threat intelligence platform to look at. He had several key platforms under cybersecurity to look at. And you were like, guy, I'm like, how I want to survive? How I want to survive? But thank God for some AI for one or two AI tools that that ended up combining a few of these platforms together. So all you needed to do is log into just one platform, and you have enough visibility of some other aspects of your infrastructure or architecture. Secondly, and also very critical, AI enables automation. It automates any task that is repetitive or maybe mundane, or maybe a very time consuming security task sometimes. And think about things like enriching alerts with additional context, looking up IP addresses in our threat intelligence DBs, or performing some initial containment actions. So, for example, if an alert comes in about a suspicious IP address, AI can automatically query multiple threat intelligence fields, can check DNS records, and even cross-reference it with past internal incidents. Did you see all the things I counted? I counted query multiple threat intelligence fields, check DNS record, cross-check past incidents, all these things in seconds. Can you imagine? Even just ordinary for an analyst to, in fact, logging into an intelligence feed alone will take you over 2 minutes because you will do two-factor. You put password, you do 2FA, all those things. But this AI can just do it with a snap of a finger. And to give you a complete picture, a complete picture of the threat of whatever you're trying to analyze. By automating all these tasks, AI has significantly reduced the manual workload on security professionals or analysts. Thirdly, AI helps in our intelligence response book. It helps in our intelligence response book. So for common types of incidents, AI can learn from the past responses and then recommend or even execute predefined response playbooks. And this ensures a consistent, effective, and rapid reaction to incidents. And this further speeds up critical time to respond. So the overall impact of AI in a SWA is profound. It's really, really profound because it significantly reduces manual efforts, and it significantly reduces manual efforts, and it also improves the efficiency and consistency of our security operations. It frees up human skill. It frees up our hands actually, and gives us time to focus on some more complex and let's say cogni- con- cognitive tasks or strategic tasks that an AI might not be able to perform. That might still require so it gives us that time, use that time, use that time. One other very critical application of AI cybersecurity is user and entity behavior analytics, what we call UEBA, not our Gary EBA, or just U with EBA, UEBA. Yeah, I think some people call it UEBA. And it's an area where AI actually improves deep insight into an organization's internal security posture. The core idea behind UEBA is for AI to establish a baseline of what a normal behavior for every user within an organization, as well as for every entity, which could even be a server, be an application, or even a network device. AI learns what is typical for Jane, as the HR manager, in terms of her login times, the application she uses, the data she accesses, and even her network activity patterns. So any day, um, our Jennifer or Jane HR deviates from any of these normal patterns, then there's something wrong. So you see, once this baseline is established, AI constantly monitors for subtle deviations from these baselines. And this could, most of these things could actually indicate malicious activities. For example, um, if Jane or Jennifer, HR manager, as I explained, um, uh, uh, um, logs in at another or from a funny geographic location, or maybe he's trying to access some sensitive financial data that is usually not in her rule, maybe out of a normal rule or something. You can even see excessive failed login attempts. The user entity behavior analytics system, which is powered by an AI system, will flag this as a suspicious activity. Flag as a suspicious activity. Or even a server suddenly transferring large amounts of data. That raises an alarm. That raises an alarm. And of course, AI will track it. The use cases for user entity behavior analytics is extremely and incredibly powerful. So it is very excellent for a few things. We have a few use cases where it flies or where it shines. Detecting insider threats. So whether you're a malicious employee or commonly maybe legitimate accounts that have been compromised, it helps in identifying compromised credentials before attackers can even cause a widespread damage. It can recognize account takeover attempts, you know, where a legitimate user session has been hijacked, and it is efficient in spotting. I mean, very effective in spotting those things. Privilege escalation is also another thing. When an attacker or insider tries to gain higher access rights that they should have, then to flag it. Privilege escalation. That's you're a regular behavior, a regular user, and all of a sudden you are trying to gain administrative rights to access a particular server, or you're trying to gain some kind of rights that maybe it's only the head of your department that has it, then of course it calls for suspicion. Calls for suspicion. The next one is malware analysis. AI thrives very well in malware analysis. It can analyze malware very, very well. Very, very well. So analyzing malware is very complex and it's also very, very time consuming. Very time consuming. But AI is dramatically improving in capability in malware analysis. So AI contributes significantly to static analysis. And this actually involves examining the code of a program without actually executing that program. So you just go through the code and you see. So very difficult if you are doing it manually. But now AI can quickly scan all those executables and scripts, to identify any suspicious pattern, decode any funny looking code, and then also recognize common characteristics or signatures often used by malware, even if it is new. Even if it is new. So, for instance, AI can be trained on millions of malware samples to recognize some specific code structure or some obfuscation techniques, which are usually the hallmarks of all these malicious softwares. AI does this much faster than any human analyst can think of doing. Even more powerful is AI's role in dynamic analysis, often performed in what we call a sandbox. Sandbox. In this scenario, suspicious files are executed in a controlled, isolated environment. So that's sandbox is an isolated, it's a controlled and an isolated environment. And this is done so that they won't harm the production system, or let's say prod environment. So what AI does is that it monitors and analyzes the file behaviors in real time. It could observe things like network connections that the malware might try to make, the modification attempts on file systems or registry, the new processes that this malware tries to inject. Based on all this behavior, the AI can now accurately determine if the file is malicious and classify it accordingly. The next part where malware analysis flies is automated classification of malware. After all this analysis, the next thing we do is to classify those malware, categorize it. Yes, categorize them. AI automatically does this categorization based on characteristics and their behavior. So, for example, a ransomware or a banking Trojan or a keylogger or even crypto miners. We are crypto miners, not cryptomania, crypto miner. Mines is a malware that is in your system mining crypto, using your system resources to mine crypto, or using your servers to mine crypto. Please identify it and classify it accordingly. So this classification is very crucial for enriching our threat intelligence databases. Generate new signatures and also defensive tools. It also helps to understand the evolving landscape of all this malware. Yes, and that's the last application that we have for us today. We're trying to be fast today because we didn't start on time. So I want to ensure that finish this session on time. The next is challenges and consideration. So why AI offers us immense potential, it is also very essential to acknowledge that It is not a silver bullet. It is not a silver bullet at all. There are significant challenges and considerations that organizations must address when deploying AI in cybersecurity. Firstly and foremost, data quality and quantity is paramount. Very, very paramount. All our artificial models or artificial intelligence models are as good as the data that they are trained on. You need large, diverse, and clean data sets to build an effective model. A biased or insufficient data can lead to very poor performance of your AI model. Secondly, we have the problem of false positives and also false negatives too. They also exist. AI can sometimes generate too many alerts that are not actual threats, which is what we call false positive. And this can actually lead to what we call alert fatigue. Alert fatigue. There was an attack, a hack on Uber or one of those top organizations some time ago, and it was an OTP alert. And what the attacker did was that he fatigued the person in charge of that of using the OTP to the point that the person just had no choice but to divulge the information that the attacker was requesting for. So same thing. False that was a false negative. Or I call it a false positive. No, I don't even know, but well, something like that. Alert fatigue got you know the attacker assisted the attacker, which of course AI will not you know um promote. So conversely, can also miss actual threats. Is what we call false negative, which is obviously a very critical failure. Very critical failure when it misses the actual threat. So refining AI models to minimize this is actually an ongoing challenge. It's a very, very strong ongoing challenge. And another significant concern for us, the challenges, is what we call adversarial AI. Just as we use AI for defense, attackers use it to evade detection. You know what adversarial means? Adversarial. As you are doing, your adversaries are also doing. You get adversaries are also doing it. So as you are trying to defend, attackers are also trying to look for how they will, bypass those your you know, fences that they are putting. You know, they want to break those fences and pass. So they can manipulate data or models just to trick your security AI, or they can even develop new types of attack, specifically designed or AI powered to evade those AI. Hmm. Very, very dicey. Trust me, very dicey. Very dicey. One other part is what we call explainability. Explainability. That is understanding why an AI model made a certain decision can be challenging and hindering trust and troubleshooting. This is really, really another hurdle. And often, AI model, especially the deep learning ones, act like black boxes. It can be challenging to understand why an AI in a particular decision, or even why it flagged a specific event. So sometimes this kind of transparency, or will I say this lack of transparency, can hinder the trust or troubleshooting or compliance efforts of we as humans, making it very challenging for us. Furthermore, you have cost and complexity. They are real factors. Implementing and maintaining sophisticated AI-driven solutions can be well, so to bring these concepts to life, let's look at a few real world case study. I know my slide stop presenting. Mm, okay, okay, I'm back. Okay, anyway. Okay, so I was trying to explain a few concepts of what we've been talking about since. We can see Google uses AI in our spam detection. AI filters billions. Google AI filters billions of unwanted emails every day. You know, every day. Their AI model analyzes billions of emails daily, effectively filtering out unwanted and all those malicious messages. Learning from every new attack vector, it adapts and it improves. So this scale of protection will be impossible without AI. Just imagine how chaotic the inbox would be if Google didn't have his AI constantly battling all those spam and phishing attempts, your email will be unusable, virtually unusable if you allowed um if Google wasn't doing what they are doing in the back end. You can't even see it because if they are blocking it, they're blocking it. You know, once they just notice that it's a spam or phishing, they've blocked it on your behalf. Except some that are very nicely crafted or deceitfully crafted. Similarly, we also have Microsoft doing the same thing with MS365. I mean, Defender. They use AI to analyze vast global threats data from millions of endpoints, cloud services. They even analyze all your files or even use AI to scan all your files on OneDrive. That's when you subscribe. I think you have to subscribe to some of their package to be able to get some of those added feature. You get, but yeah, they have it. It allows them to identify all those emerging threats, understand attack methodologies, and also protect their users proactively. So the Microsoft Defender suite, for instance, heavily relies on AI to process millions of those signals daily, and it identifies even sometimes the very slightest deviation from normal. So it depends on the threshold at which you set it. There's a setting of it, but the problem of making it too sensitive is that you can even miss out. It will now start, it brings us back to what we call the false negative. You now start picking even good emails as bad emails. You get, so something like that. Well, another company you should look out for is Darktrace. Darktrace. Company like Darktrace, they are in fact, they are one of the first guys that have used their AI solutions in the past. Went to deploy it for one of our leading oil companies in Nigeria. And it's performing very, very well. Fantastic, the environment. Very fantastic. You know. We've also deployed it for a telco, I mean a bank in Nigeria here too, and they are really doing well in those environments. And they are well known for their self-learning AI, that mostly specializes in anomaly detection on enterprise networks. And their AI constantly, what it does is that it constantly builds a unique pattern of life for every user or device, instantly flagging any deviation from what is normal. And it could also indicate you know, a sophisticated attack. There's also a very famous story from Darktrace which involves how their AI was able to detect a let's say smart fish in quotes. There was a smart fish tank in a casino. And it was on the network. All it was doing, it was just as an entry point by attackers. And how did they discover? It started sending anomalous data to the internet. If it was a human guy, probably in that casino, they might have never discovered it. Because how you think of a fish tank as an attack vector? But because the fish tank had an IP address, obviously, smart fish tank, the attackers just used and it was also on the network of the casino. So all the attackers needed to do was be on that smart fish tank IP address and then do whatever they needed to do in that environment. I need to go undiscovered because you just assume that traffic is coming from the fish tank. Well, thanks to our Darktrace, was able to pick that up. And in the realm of incident response, we also have leading firms like Mandiant, which is also now part of Google Cloud. They also use AI extensively to speed up investigation and also threat hunting. Their tool helps analysts to quickly go through all those mountain of data or forensic data to quickly pinpoint indicators of compromise and also understand uh, attack narrative much faster than any manual method would have been able to do. Yes. I think this is the end. Nice. So, as a discussion point for all of you, I would like to ask, have you personally encountered AI being used in any security tool, or in fact, in anything that you use? Or perhaps, have you heard of maybe where it has been used before, also in the security field? Just feel free to share your observation. You can share it in the comment. You can share it anywhere. Share it in the comment. Share it in the chat box. Where have you personally encountered where AI has been used? Also, you can also tell us what your key takeaways are from our session today, and add that in the chat box, in the conversation. What are your key takeaways from our today's um, session? And also, one last question: what concerns do you have about our increasing reliance on AI, especially in cybersecurity field? And answer any of these things in our chat box or in our comment section. And with this, we've come to the end of our session today. Um, Trying to make sure that we don't overshoot the time that is allocated to us, which is 12 o'clock. Next week, we'll be discussing on the future, the ethics and the strategy of cybersecurity, I mean, of AI in cybersecurity. And then we'll also be writing our assessment next week. So please join on time so that you will not miss out on the attendance. Please join on time. And if possible, we'll try to see if we can play around one or two AI tools. AI tools are very, very sensitive, and so I'm trying to be very careful not to go beyond the boundaries when we are making any form of doing any form of tests or practicals of them. So yeah, thank you very much. And if you have any question, like I said, always feel free to add me up on your LinkedIn. My name is Bankole Adekola. Just search for me, find me on LinkedIn, add me up, send me a chat, or fire me, shoot me a message on LinkedIn message, and I'll respond to you also. So thank you very much for joining us this week. Do have a very, very lovely weekend ahead. Um, One good thing, always um, try to read over all the topics we discussed, because of course, based on time constraints, you might have not been able to go as deep as we might have wanted to. But please do your own personal readings, read wide as you can, gather knowledge from anywhere, and yeah, that will be it. Please remember to fill the attendance form. It's very, very important. Fill the attendance form. Um, yeah, yeah. I think that's it. Thank you very much. Um, do have a lovely day. Thank you for joining us. And please remember to hit the subscribe button on our page. And yeah, hit the like button also. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed our today's session. Yeah, thank you very much. Have a lovely day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye for now. Thank you.